Hello and welcome back to the OnlyAccies podcast. We're throwing things back this week. We are back on Zoom. It's just a one-time only though. We will be back in the studio soon. But Brandon, last week we had quiz time. Congratulations again to you for winning that. And I really enjoyed it, and hopefully it's something that we'll get back in again soon with you as well.
Yeah, it was really good, and it was good to change things up a bit with the doom and gloom, which is hung over our shoulders for the past God knows how long. So, no, it was really good. That sort of, yeah, like I said, changed things up a bit. It seemed to get a good reaction, and yeah, it probably took people's minds off things for a few days, hopefully. And back to reality now when we're having to talk about the absolute muck which is on the park.
Yeah, I mean, we're going back 4 games. We're going to talk about in this episode, so we are going back a little bit in people's memories. But starting off with Cove, I mean, Cove at home, and I remember saying we're 2-0 down. We score in the 45th minute, I think, to go 2-1. And you know that way where even when we scored that goal just before half time, I don't remember celebrating. I don't really remember reacting much to it at all, because I just felt so fed up with it all. Do you know what I mean? We're 2-0 down at that point, and I remember just thinking, like, even at that point, I don't think we're gonna get back into this. I never saw the kind of mental second half we got, but I honestly didn't think we'd get anything from that game, even when we did score that 45th minute goal. I remember speaking to one of the fans at half time who said, I was about to leave for the pub until we scored that goal, but I'll stay and watch the second half now. But honestly, I think when the fourth goal went in, I celebrated because of what it was. Last kick of the ball, basically, draw level. But see, honestly, I don't know if you see it in the video, I don't know if I say it in the video, but whenever, even when we scored the third, I remember saying, I don't care. Do you know what I mean? I'd lost that kind of excitement around it. What was that game like for you from where you were?
Well, I had hospitality, so thank God I managed to drown my sorrows that manner. But no, like you say, it's one of those ones where you have a wee celebration just due to the manner of the fact that we've went for each the last minute and we've came back to 4-1 down. But it's pathetic to be down that score line in the first place, and I think all the players will agree with that. I spoke to Chucky at the Fireworks, and he said the same. They should never really be in that position. It's embarrassing to be in a position where you're getting beat 4-1 at any level of the game, never mind in the championship at home to a team who were in nearly 4 tiers below you 2 seasons ago. It's a redneck. Standards just not good enough, and I don't understand why it's taken us until we're in these positions to get a kick up the arse. We don't start. Our defence is so poor. It's as if we're in these positions and it's taken to those score lines for the attackers to have to fucking drop so deep and just push everybody forward. It's no good enough, and for each the circumstances, it's good to come 4-1 down and take away a point because it looks like we're going to get 0, but ultimately it's no good enough.
No, I mean, I was impressed that day, and Chucky basically said the same thing there. I remember he came in and I was sitting waiting, and he came in and he kind of saw me, and he just gave me this look as if, I can't believe that. Do you know what I mean? That kind of like disbelief look. And he said basically the same thing. I think the first thing he said when he sat down was, I don't understand how we can be so bad for 55, 60 minutes and then we start playing well. Do you know what I mean? And so you can see that's, your captain in a lot of stages so far this season, coming out and saying that. And I don't know if we need more of that in the dressing room. I don't know if we need more of that in the park. We always talk about how we lack leadership, but that Cove game in particular, mate, was just brutal. And like I said, the celebrations at the end because we came back from 4-1 down, but I honestly thought it was just. Like I said earlier on, I'm repeating myself, but I just had no kind of excitement from that at all. But we did kind of think that after the Cove game, how well we played in that last half an hour, and the excitement of drawing 4 each, we would then hopefully carry that into Wraith Rovers away, which was our next game. And I mean, we got the total opposite, in my opinion. I remember sitting there, and that was one of the games where I spent most of the time questioning how we were actually set up, because I had no idea. It started as a 4-3-3, but then Virtanen was dropping into a back five when they had the ball, and then the front three were all switching around. So Winter was on the right, then he was on the left. Then as the game went on, Winter was at wing back, and it was just. I remember sitting in that second half going, "Do you know that way where I have no idea what is going on right now in the park? There was no organisation." There was no fight, there was no passion. Didn't look like MD really cared. The only person I thought genuinely cared that I could see was Andy Winter. Again, for I don't know how many times we've said that after games, Andy Winter seems to be the only one really caring about what's going on in the park. But that wasn't the issue for me in that game. It was the disorganisation and the lack of any clear structure or tactic. And I spoke to one of the fans after the game, and what they were saying to me was maybe we were a bit quick to get rid of Stan Taylor. Now, I know a few fans liked Stan, right? And I didn't mind him as a person, but I thought his football was so boring, right? But what you can say about Stan is he did have some kind of structure. He did have some kind of style of play that he liked to play. It wasn't the most exciting style of play, but I don't think we'd be in, it's all hearsay obviously now, but I don't think we'd be in the current position we were in. Now, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's ranking maybe being inexperienced. I don't know if it's because he's not got experience in and around him in the dugout to help him with these situations. But I remember sitting so frustrated with how we had any lack of style or organisation. What did you make of the Wraith game? I remember speaking to you at it a little bit.
You've probably hit it in the nail. There was zero structure. I don't think zero organisation, zero structure. I don't think on the part they really understand what their sort of positioning is, or maybe they do. They just don't believe in it because of how woeful we're looking. Just made it far too easy for Rafe. Honestly, like a boy had the every single attack or every time Rafe had the ball at one side of the park, the other side of the park was completely empty for them. And all they had to do was a big switch, play a half decent pass, and they were in behind the defenders. And that's ultimately what they were doing every single time. Just no organisation, no structure. We're, we've conceded by far the most goals in this league by a fucking long shot. And you'd think that'd give them a kick up the arse to have a bit of structure, a bit of organisation, and it's not as if the way in which we've set up previous years is unknown to them with the three centre backs and the two wing backs, which ultimately, as I keep saying this season, we're playing with two centre backs and two full backs who are very attacking wing backs. So ultimately, we've been playing with two centre backs because we've had nobody to cover at the full back position, meaning we're so exploited. And because we have been so lacking in players in the centre back position, we've had to put one of those players into centre back, which is ultimately again making us so vulnerable at the back, which teams are just picking up on every single week. I think I saw we've conceded an average of 2.3 goals or something per game, which is just an absolute redneck, absolute joke. But the Rafe game deserved absolutely nothing out of it. I thought maybe Teehee got that goal, very well taken goal, and then that might have sort of made us start the game, but couldn't have been any more wrong. We were woeful. We probably deserved to get beat by a lot more than we did, and it's looking extremely bleak at the present moment, and that was just that summed up our full season with how bad that performance was.
It felt like a training day in that second half. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know those kind of old school drills, attack versus defence. That's what it felt like at times. You know what I mean? They were just constant, and it was a case of where we're getting the ball. We were picking the ball up, in our own half, lumping it forward, not winning the initial ball, not winning the second ball, not even winning the third or the fourth, and then bang, everybody back behind the ball. And I remember at one point, I'm looking at Andy Winter at right wing back, and I'm saying, that is our most clinical striker. That is the striker that the past two managers, Rankin and Stan, have said is the best finisher at the club. And we're playing him at right wing back. I do not understand that. I don't get that at all.
It as well, because we're going back, we are back, sorry, to the times when we were in the Premier League, when we used to have these conversations about how there's no midfield there existing, and
Yeah.
the other teams are just bypassing a complete empty gap and then managing to get behind us. Whereas now it's just there's no midfield. There's no. I just don't get it. The structure's all wrong. It doesn't look like he's going to be changing it anytime soon, which he ultimately quite clearly fucking has to do, or else we're already in deep trouble. But we're just going to keep falling away from the pack, which ultimately we really shouldn't be doing because the pack are hardly anything special. It's just we've been the fucking absolute worst dross out of the full pack.
Do you agree that the players that we have there are capable of more? Do you agree that with a different setup, a different style, whatever you want to call it, those players, you could get more out of those players that we currently have? Do you agree with that?
I don't think I'm being deluded in any shape or form. Yes, I understand our players have clearly went backwards in the past few seasons. They have forward, but I truly believe that the first team anyway that we've got, and even the players that when we have a full strength to come off the bench and have an impact, that would look at Ayr top of the league, and all they've got is a boy that knows how to put the ball in the net. I'm, I'll probably get caught deluded, and maybe Ayr fans will jump on this because of this, but player by player in the first team, I don't think Ayr have got a better team than us, and I
No, I'd
think
agree with that.
it's just across the championship, the standard's not the particularly best, and it's been proven with that with the top two currently probably were at the start of the season. Everybody's bottom two, and that's not just an Accies perception. I think when I looked at all the comments on social media, I looked at Pine Bovril, I looked at all their predictions. The vast majority of folk were predicting Aaron Morton to be
Yeah.
one of the bottom two, and they're the top two. So it shows that the standard of the league isn't particularly good, and it just needs a bit of structure, a bit of fight and determination, which ultimately we've not had this season. And if they don't fucking change that sooner rather than later, then we're going to be relegated before Christmas.
Yeah, and I think that's a massive fear for me. As obviously it's a massive fear for everybody, but what I mean is, it's I've never ever been one of the guys who's been leaning on the fact we're going to get relegated. I don't even remember really saying at any point, I think we'll go down. I've always had the confidence we'll stay up. Even when we were second bottom, we stand for a little period last season, everyone was going, oh, that's us, man, we're struggling. I was like that. No, I don't think we will be. And I've always been on that side. I'm now at a point where every game that goes by, I'm thinking that's us one step closer. Do you know what I mean? I'm now in that stage, and I think, listen, I try and speak to a lot of fans at games when I can, and even those who are the more positive bunch are starting to say to me now, I'm really worried about where we are and about where we're standing, and that I think that speaks volumes when those people like myself who are always trying to be the more positive side are genuinely worried.
It's hard to not be worried, mate. We're currently bottom of and at the bottom of the worst championship in years, and we just seem to be losing, regardless if we're putting in good performances or dross performances. It's the end result is always ending up at the same outcome, which is always a very, very worrying sign. So, no, they need to change it ASAP, or else inevitably we will be going down, which will have a detrimental effect. So either some changes going to need to be made, investments, speculate to accumulate, because we thought by speculating to accumulate to stay in the Premier League was a must. It's an absolute must to do it. If we go down this season, then it's I don't know what that would mean. It would ultimately probably mean we went part time. You can't have a full time youth academy if you are part time. So something needs to be happening soon. I think fans have tried to be as positive as they can this season. I think the fans have gave good support in practically every game possible. But ultimately, if we're just getting losses after losses, and it's very hard for that. And it's going to be changing to the very difficult chance constantly happening with no batting, which just isn't going to help the players, isn't going to help anything, and it's only going to have one outcome. So changes need to be happening sooner rather than later, because it's just no good enough, and it just seems like a never-ending downward spiral.
And the next two games we need to talk about, I never actually saw. I wasn't able to make, Brandon, so I'm going to lean on you quite heavily for how we got on. Before we talk about the next game, which was Rangers B in the Challenge Cup, before that, there was a Facebook page created by one of the Accies directors, Jerry Strain, and he's been posting quite consistently on that, asking for fans' questions, asking for fans' opinions, going back with video answers, and kind of having conversations with them, having discussions with them. And I'm interested in your thought on it, because I like that a director at the club, somebody that we have vouched for quite publicly, Jerry Strain, before. We've met Jerry privately, and he seems like a really nice guy. He's got good intentions from all we can tell. He's clearly a successful businessman in his own right. And the stuff he's doing for Accies behind the scenes that he kind of discussed about and has been put on his Facebook page are all positive things. What do you make of the Facebook page that's been created? I think it's Hamilton Accies board or something like that.
Listen, I think it's a weird one, because Jerry clearly has all the good intentions. We've spoke to him, and he's got a lot of good ideas which he wants to implement. He's a good businessman, as you say. He's done wonders with his own company, but as a person, he just seems like your average Joe, similar to myself and yourself. He's a proper football fan. I think there's a certain line you need to sort of tread with. You need to tread a bit carefully with regards to stuff like this, because, as you say, it can turn sour. And even though there's nothing which he's doing which is wrong, because he is the face of it, he'll be hit with all the things which are wrong, so to speak, which isn't his fault. Everything which he's done so far and the ideas which he's tried to implement are clearly all for the better, and he's trying to engage with the fans, which is something which we've been trying to have for so long. And it just seems like one idea happens and perfect disappears after a couple of weeks. So I hope this is not the same thing, where it's just been a sort of couple of, like, a week or so, and then it just disappears. I hope it is going to be a persistent thing. There's going to be that engagement, there's going to be that continuity, and the bridges are hopefully continue to try and be built with the fans. Else where we are on the pitch, it's just going to keep reflecting off the pitch, because there's not going to be anything positive at all. So I hope that the positivity from him continues. He continues to try and implement these ideas. He's transparent, he's honest with the fans, but ultimately, if it just continues to be so poor on the park, nothing seems to be getting done off the park, and it's just sort of ideas rather than actually following through, then it's just going to continue to get negative. But fair play to him. I think it's a good idea, but you need to tread with a bit of caution with it, because it could turn sour. But no, I think he's a brilliant guy. Every time I've spoke with him, he's very honest and transparent with me, and some of the ideas he wants to implement is the things which all of our fans have been asking for a while. It's just whether or not he can get the traction and the backing of the rest of the board to sort of implement these changes. So I think everybody needs to get behind Jerry and on Jerry, like on Jerry's side, and sort of understand where he's coming from. But yeah, as I said, you need to sort of tread with a bit of caution with anything.
Just before we go and talk about the Rangers thing, one last thing I want to say about the Facebook page and Jerry Strain is I can understand fans' scepticism about it. Stuff really, really bad between the club, the board, and the fans right now. And, chants of sack the board have been heard at games the last few weeks, and, calls for sackings in the dugout and in the boardroom and stuff like that. And so there were some fans that were sceptical about, this Facebook page was made after all these things happened. Is this the club just throwing us a bone, right? And I can totally understand that scepticism. But as I said, we've met with Jerry a few times. I don't think this is the case whatsoever. I think he's probably seen this as an opportunity the club haven't been doing, and he's thought, I'll just take it upon myself and do it. Do you know what I mean? I'll just get it started, I'll just get going with it, and hopefully it works out. So I can't.
It takes a lot of balls as well.
Of course.
It takes a lot of balls for that, because he's not been really in the limelight, or he's not really been known to the fans, and he's sort of putting his own sort of head on the line, so to speak, by doing this. Whereas he doesn't need to do that. He could have went sort of and continued his job of bringing in revenue commercially, and sort of gained positivity that way, and brought money into the club. But he's ultimately wanted to put his face out there and sort of try and engage with the fans, which no one has really
Yep.
of recently. Ronnie, no, sister, see that Ronnie and Alan obviously come on the pod, and we obviously really do appreciate that. But for the rest of the fans, there's not really that manner of engaging. So it's good that someone and Jerry's doing that, and I hope it just continues. And as I said, it's not just a flash in the
Well,
pan.
let's go back to the football then, Brandon. Challenge Cup away, Rangers B. Not a huge amount of excitement or interest around the game. You know, usually people try and get up for cup games, but it was a B team, and that already splits opinion with whether they should even be in the competition. You made the journey though. You went and watched the game. What did you make of it? It was a side mixed with regular first team players, some that have been on the bench trying to get in the first team, a few youngsters as well. What did you make of the game in whole?
As a game as a whole, first half an hour we were very, very, very lucky not to be behind, is what I'd say. They missed a penalty. They had a chance where the ball's passed across the deck and missed an open goal for 3 yards out. They probably had most possession. We were very sloppy on the ball, but when we get that first goal, it did turn to sort of be cruise control, is what I'd say. We didn't really have to take our foot off the gas. I don't know if that was just the difference in sort of the professionalism and the sort of experience of some of our players. But yeah, when we got the first goal, they didn't really look at threatening us at all. Second half, it was just a bit of an easy game. But it wasn't really a game to be sort of. We won a game, which very thankful that we did win the game, because if we didn't, then yeah, it would have just been even more of a farce than it already has been. But yeah, we got the win into the next round of the cup, not the fucking whatever it's called, the SPFL Cup, and we avoided a fucking a banana skin and an absolute embarrassment of getting beat off a B team of a first team who we bet at their own ground 3 years ago. Which shows how far we've came. But aye, we won the game. Lucky we weren't getting beat, which would have probably have changed the game massively. But throughout the 90 minutes, we deserved the victory. And yeah, we left by
Was there
going
any
through the next
players in
round.
that lineup that stood out to you positively, negatively? Because I know there was obviously Darius and Attigate's two, Rie Mimno played Lewis Smith as well. I think Chris McGinn, Ryan Oney.
So the game itself showed me how Ryan Oney isn't a striker. So they played him as a sort of lone striker, and Ryan Oney isn't a lone striker. He's a very direct player. When he gets the ball, he runs at people. However, we're playing these long balls up, and there was balls high in the air, and you know when a striker's an out and out striker, he knows when to anticipate where the ball's going, he knows how to bring it down, and that's not the type of player he is. And that's not a criticism of him. He's a 16-year-old boy, but from what we've saw of him so far, he's a winger slash inside forward who can win at players, and we played him in that game as an out and out striker. So that was wrong, first of all, in my opinion. I thought he would have had a much better impact if we played him in his correct position, and he probably would have got a goal or two should we have done that. Mimno was decent. You could tell, obviously, he had a bit more experience than the rest of the people on the pitch. He was reading it well, he was passing the ball well, and he was sort of exploiting the gaps which the inexperienced Rangers side had. Zanata got his 2 goals. I took both goals all right. Don't think he really stood out that much. Lewis Smith, non-existent. Unfortunately, I really was expecting him to sort of show up and sort of be one of the standouts, but he wasn't. Jamie Smith had a fairly decent game, made a few good saves first half from them. We lose Latona, obviously 5'1" or something. He was okay. Do you know what I mean? He done all right, I thought. And try to think of anybody else in particular. It was in the end it was a comfortable win, and I think our experience showed, and the players sort of understanding of the actual game showed a lot more. I think that's what ultimately won us the game. I don't think we were particularly standout ability-wise in comparison to them. It's just we knew how to play the game and read the game a lot better than them, which ultimately made us comfortable outwin us. But again, nothing to sort of gloat about or sort of be happy about. We got the win in the end, and if it was anything other than that, then it would have just been absolute chaos.
That win
Yeah.
without
And
play.
obviously with that-
Need to end in 10 minutes. We then play Inverness in the next round. How are we feeling for that game? I am not excited because I think it's only going to go one way. But
So excited for December. We've got East Kilbride at home, Inverness at home, Inverness at home. So excited for that run of 3 weekends. Cannot wait.
see, just on the EK game. You brought it up there, right? Just quickly, right? I want your opinion on the EK game because I am fully expecting, right? And maybe this is just me being overly negative, right? I am fully expecting to lose because I just think it's written. It's one of those games where, similar when we went talking like Talbot, there was not a single Accies fan in that ground who thought we were going to win that game. And I've got the same feeling about EK. I just got a feeling that I know it's only going to go one way.
Canny, and if it does, and the fact it's at home, it'll just be absolute carnage. If that happens, then I don't think there's any way back for a lot of people, whether that be in the dugout or in the stands. I think a lot of fans just wouldn't. The fans would be gone. I think. I think the management would need to be going. I think there's extreme questions. They should be going right now, just because where we are, it's not good enough. Simple as that. Despite how my thoughts are about them as people and what some of them have done for Accies, it's just some of it is just not good enough where we're at now. But if that was to ultimately happen, then nah, they would need to be gone. If that does happen, then I just don't want to. I don't even want to think about that, mate, because we've obviously got a lot of games before then, which if we don't win, they should be probably gone anyway, because where we're at just now isn't good enough. But to be put out of East Kilbride in the Scottish Cup would quite possibly, if not be the worst result in our history. We've obviously had a lot of them of recent years, but nah, a local rival who have just came from nowhere, a local rival. Why am I even calling East Kilbride a local rival? A local opponent who, that I've got a few of our ex-players and obviously doing okay in their junior league. It couldn't happen. Couldn't happen.
Brandon, the final game we need to talk about was the home game at Ayr. Again, not one that I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to see, depending which way you look at it. 3-2 defeat at home to Ayr, and was it a case of what you said earlier on? They just had a player who could put the ball in the back of the net, and that Akinyemi, the league's top goal scorer. How did that game go?
I mean, as far as I could see, Ayr were extremely poor. I think their fans have voiced that as well, that it was one of their worst performances of the season. But yet they've managed to score 3 goals away from home. It's just, it's not on. It's a redneck, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, our managers came out and says there's a lot of the proudness, and I can't remember exact terminologies of what was used, but he pretty much was saying there's a lot to be proud about within that game, and we can take a lot away from it, but we lost the game. How can you be proud of a defeat? I just don't get that. Is that where the mentality's at these days? I understand, yeah, we're playing top of the league, but that is what their own fans have admitted it's one of the worst performances. Yes, it was a bit better from us in the fact that I think when I looked at the stats, it was like we had 15 shots and they had 3 or something like that. But ultimately, they've scored the 3 goals and they've came away with the 3 points. Results is all that matters in football. You can, at least we started playing better and we're better than what we were at Rafe, because I just don't see how we're taking positives of being better than what we were the week before, when the week before was just absolute rotten standard. So you'd expect us to be at the bare minimum better than that. I don't like the chat about being proud. about performances when you've came away without any points. I don't get that, and that says weak mentality to myself. I don't know about yourself, but that's what it says to me. It just shows where we're at these days when we're talking about being proud of performances, which we've got nothing out. It's not how it should be. I get it. We want to see 100%, which I don't think we really saw because I think we could have been better. It's just how bad they were. We didn't take our chances. We scored an own goal and a decent goal. I know that obviously the goal score would get chopped off. That could have really have changed the game, which it probably could have, to be honest with you. And how that's not been seen, fuck knows. But that's embarrassment in its own way. But yeah, Ayr played poor. We managed to allow the best striker in the league have a fucking field day and play a training game on his own, pretty much.
Yeah, this is what, like I said, I didn't see the game, but I saw the goals, and we try really hard not to be critical of individual players on this channel. We really genuinely do, but from looking at the goals, I don't know what Daniel O'Reilly is doing for two of them. I mean, that first one, yes, it's a poor pass from Andy Ryan, but as you said, he gives the most dangerous striker in the league at the moment so much space coming down into the box. It doesn't close him down at all. I don't understand it. And in the second goal, he just loses his man. He has no idea that Akinyemi's running in behind him. He goes to cover the front post on which there's a man already on, and then the goal goes in, and all the players are looking around as if what's going on, what's happened. It's just...
And the penalty as well. You've just scored, and then they go straight up the park, and the player's going absolutely nowhere, and you give away the most stupid penalty that is possible. There's no need to put your hands in his back. He's going fucking nowhere. It's just so stupid, and a lot of it says to me again, there's no structure. We're allowing the best striker in the league to have that's got the most goals in the league to have so much space. There's zero structure. I just don't understand why the first thing on the manager's mind, surely going into that game, is just get someone touch tight to that Akinyemi. The rest of them, you can deal with them yourself, but at least have someone touch tight to him. The worst thing you can do is give him a couple of yards. He'll just punish you, and that's what he's done. I thought the way in which they set up, they might have changed it because it's clearly not been working the past few weeks, but they stuck with the same way, meaning that we're very light at the back, meaning that if one player went out of position, another player would go out of position, leaving the forward line up to the opposition to have space, which is effectively what they've done for all three goals. We've been out of position. We've allowed players to have space because people are out of position, meaning that they've got time to be effective with the ball, which they've not had a lot of the ball. They've not had a lot of chances, but the three errors which we've done has made them have 3 goals, which has been the reason why we've came away with probably undeservedly 0 points. But again, it's just not good enough.
No, completely frustrating. And you look ahead now. We've got Dundee on Saturday, and it's another game where, again, I hate to sound so negative, but I'm not looking forward to that. I think it's only going to go one way. And I mean, where are they even sitting in the league right now? They're sitting third in the league, 3 points.
I think they're like undefeated in 6 or something. Ever since they came back for Thistle, they have had a bit of a sort of kick start to their season, if you will. It's not looking good, but it's a game which we can't lose. But I just don't see us getting anything out of it, if I'm being honest with you.
I think it's mental that we're saying that at this stage. We can't lose. We're at a stage now where we can't lose games back to back.
Third way through the season, and we're talking about. But you look at our record this season, mate, it's an absolute embarrassment. And the fact that there's not actually been, or not seemingly been, questions asked, which I really don't want there to be questions, because I do like the manager and I like the people on his back staff. But if they're not going to back him, and they're not going to bring in another players to sort of put behind them, and if they're not going to question the structure themselves, then I don't know what to do. I don't know what else there is to do.
I mean, that ties quite nicely into a segment we've started called Only the Fans. We ask you guys for your questions on social media. If you want to get involved, go into the links in the description and you'll get your ones there. But a question we get asked quite a lot, this one was submitted by John. He said, is Rankin the man to save us from relegation? And I think kind of what you're going off there is, I genuinely don't even know if he'll get the chance to try at the rate we're going. I said, I think a few weeks ago that I think they'll give him till January. They'll give him the January window, see what can happen, and take it from there. But see the way we're going, I don't even think we can wait till January, because by January, who knows how many points we could be behind, and then it's almost an unsavable record to try and get back even into the fight of staying up. I'm at a stage now where we're a point behind our Broth. We're, I think, 5 points behind the team just above our Broth, something like that, 4 or 5 points. I'm looking at it now and going, even if we beat Dundee, we're still 2-3 points behind even getting out of the relegation, those bottom 2 places, and I don't think genuinely they can wait until January.
They can't. You've had it on the nail, and I don't think I even need to add anything for a lot of that, mate, if I'm being honest with you. The way it's going, they can't wait until January. If we're going to just constantly be catching a drift, you've got teams in this league beating one another because the standard of it is not particularly good, whereas we're going into games and we're seen as the easy 3 points, rather than everyone amongst each other thinking, oh, we can beat this team, MD theoretically can beat MD in this league. It's the standards rotten, but we're one of the only teams that are going into it thinking we're not going to win, are we? Whereas everybody else, supporters, are going into games thinking that they've got a good chance of winning it. I don't know how long this can last, and this run to keep going without proper serious questions to be asked and something to be implemented or take place, because the way it's going now, we can't wait to January, or we will be far too far adrift to even salvage anything from that period of time. Something needs to take action now, and if we don't get points at the weekend, then yes, something seriously needs to happen.
Well, we spoke previously about, when we were speaking about Ronnie McDonald, him coming back, and what we said on the podcast was, or the kind of vibe we got when we spoke about it on the podcast was, if he didn't like it, if he didn't think something was best for Hamilton Accies or best for whatever, he wouldn't think twice. And I think he's maybe at that point now where even he's looking at it and going, I don't know how much longer I can give John Rankin before we genuinely need to start making changes. But
there was something I saw on Twitter, which I didn't even know about. There was a comment, something about that Maitland went into the dressing room at half time at Cove.
I saw this as well, yeah.
Something I wasn't even aware of, and I don't know if there's any truth in it or whatsoever, but I saw someone respond to it saying, yeah, I heard that as well. I mean, that does seem like it's gone back into the olden days, where obviously I think Ronnie even mentioned on the podcast herself, it was Alan that mentioned to it that, not Ronnie, it was that he hated the COVID times because he couldn't go down to the dressing room, he couldn't sort of interact with the players, he couldn't understand what's going on with the manager, etc. So to hear that sort of happened does sort of make sense. Whether it did happen or not, is another question. But
does that maybe give you the maybe inkling that they don't kind of believe in what they're trying to do if they're having to go down and run the riot act at halftime?
I don't know, mate. I don't know. I honestly don't. I just think everything just seems very off just now. It's not structured. Doesn't seem a cohesion. Something needs to happen. Players need to come in. A player needs to come in. I don't know. Something needs to be changed, and I don't think it's mass changes that need to happen just because how poor the league is. A few runs, a run of a few wins just completely takes you out of this and puts you to neither the other side of the table. So I don't think there is wholesale changes need to happen. I just think changes need to happen, and if we keep leaving it too late, then it's going to get to the stage where it is proper wholesale changes which need to happen, and it'll probably be too late by that point.
Speaking of changes, Liam has asked the question. I've just read his whole comment. He said, "Let's be real. The board won't get rid of Rankin. I doubt they will back him in the January window. But looking at the squad, what positions do you think we need to bring in, and do you guys have any ideal players you'd like to see being brought in?" Now, just piggybacking on what you've just said, Brandon, about I don't think it is wholesale changes either. I don't think we need a massive overhaul of this squad. What we talked about kind of at the start of the podcast was I do think we can get better out of these players, but the problem is we don't have huge amount of squad depth, so that when we do get an injury, you're having to force Doyle, who's a right back, into centre back and stuff like that. So there's 3 positions I would sign. The first is a centre back, second is a midfielder, and the third's a striker. That's the 3 I would sign. Because A, you get your centre back in. It means you don't need to worry about Doyle having to go into centre back. You've got your right back position sorted with him. He's fairly consistent. You need another midfielder in that middle, because there is no midfield right now. It's not happening. So you need another midfielder there. And then that will be, I think, 8, 9, maybe 10 years we've been asking for a striker, it feels like. And you get that, you then eliminate, you need to start playing fucking folk out wide, or start, you don't have to rely on Teehee, or coming off the bench, getting to making out a 16-year-old Ryan Oney coming off the bench to make an impact. Those are the 3 positions I would target. Is there any names maybe you could throw in that you think would maybe be a decent signing?
Gordon, Dylan McGeoch, and Ewan Henderson.
So glad you said Dylan McGee, because he was my midfield option.
So I'm being realistic with these signings as well.
Yeah.
You sign Ziggy Gordon, who would give the whole place a bit of positivity around it. It's a player who is experienced, knows the club. The fans absolutely adore him. Would give the fans a bit of a kick up the arse to be back on side of the board. And it's another player who would give us support in all different areas as well, should we become a bit short across the back line. Dylan McGeoch, now midfield is a position I think we need a bit more strength within. He suits the mould of the type of midfielder which we probably need to bring in. I think he's not got a club for a while now because of his injury record. Yep. Bring him in a pay-as-you-play deal until the end of the season. If he does well, that'll probably get him another move elsewhere. Or maybe get him back in the fold in Scottish football, so to speak. So makes sense in that respect. And then up front, if we're being realistic, we're probably not going to spend money on anyone just now. So Ewan Henderson isn't really getting game time now. With Hearts, I think Hearts kept him in the fold just due to the amount of games they'd been playing with the Europa League, etc. Going into the second half of the season, they won't be playing that many games. So bringing him on loan would just give us more options up front. Again, I don't think the players that we've got in this squad should be where they're at just now. I don't think we're getting the most out of them. I think on paper, the starting 11, if set up correctly, should be beating the vast majority of teams in this league. And I do think we've got a better first 11 than quite a lot of the teams. I do think we're one of the better actual first 11s in the league. We're just not, for some reason or other, we're just not clicking together. We're not being set up in the right manner, and we're not getting the most out of the players which we've got. So I don't think wholesale changes are needed, but I do agree with you that a defender, a midfielder and a striker, central defender, a holding midfielder and a striker. I've obviously gave my 3 there, who I think are they're very realistic signs, if we're being honest with you, and they would make big changes. I think if we get Ziggy in right now, that would have such a positive change to absolutely everything, regardless of where we're at the moment, and it would just get the fans back on side with the board, and it would maybe have a bit of change in mentality amongst the fans, because we all need to be unified just now, and we need to try and get the players behind. We need to get behind the players, and we need to get behind the club to get us out of this situation. But it's a very hard situation, and it's very hard for fans to do that when there's no changes being made and there's nothing sort of positive coming out of the social media aspect and stuff like that. So it makes the whole thing just negative when there's nothing there. So I think something like that would have such a positive impact both on and off the park. Midfield, Dylan McGeoch, I've talked about him, and then up front, the only other option that I've sort of touted is Lee Griffiths. Again, someone that needs to prove a point. I don't know. I just think no wholesale changes needed, but we do need to make some changes elsewise. We're sort of going to just continue on this downward trajectory.
Yep, I don't think there's much I can add to that, to be honest. Those probably would have been my 3 targets as well, Ewan Henderson especially, but Dylan McGeoch, he's been on open goal the last 2-3 weeks. kind of put himself in the shot window, talking about how he's ready to go. Do you know what I mean? He's keeping himself fit. Obviously not match fit, but he's keeping himself fit, so if an offer comes in, he's able to jump at it. I don't know if he's maybe looking for part-time or what the situation is with him. But yeah, I think he would be a realistic signing and a good signing. But I think we will call it there. I think we'll wrap up the podcast there. Thank you again very much for listening. As always, we really appreciate it. Thank you for all the support on the quiz time episode we mentioned last week. You can watch that by clicking the link in the description or just going over to our channel. If you're listening on Spotify, jump over to YouTube, hit subscribe so you don't miss any content. You don't just need to listen to these podcasts, you can watch them as well. But thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you again soon. See you later.